If you've ever arrived at a transition on race morning and had this sinking feeling in your stomach, wondering if you forgot something, just know you're absolutely not alone. Because I've been there myself, probably more times than I'd like to admit. And I can tell you that from experience, that forgetting even one small detail can completely change the flow of your race before it even really begins. Over time, through trial and error, and honestly, through making a lot of those mistakes firsthand, I've built a system that allows me to show up feeling organized, calm, and knowing that everything is exactly where it needs to be and nothing is left to chance. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through my full triathlon transition checklist, step by step, from the night before all the way through T1 and T2, so that you can implement this exact system into your own race day and then make it your own. I've also turned this into a free downloadable checklist that you can grab from my website, gregstryjourney.com. The link is in the description below. And before we get into it, if you find this helpful, it would mean a lot to me if you took a second to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and consider following me on Instagram at gregstryjourney, where I'll share more content that you might enjoy. All right, now with that said, let's start where every great race really begins, and that is the day before. Race morning is all about staying composed and executing a routine that you've already thought through ahead of time, rather than making decisions on the fly. As soon as I wake up, I start by putting on all of my key wearable devices, whether that's my watch, my heart rate monitor, or something like my Whoop, or if you might wear an Oura Ring to track additional data, because I want everything collecting from the very beginning. From there, I begin my nutrition and hydration early, making sure that I'm fueling consistently rather than trying to rush it right before the race starts. And I always double check that my bottles are filled, ready to go on the bike. I usually like to fill those the night before as well. And of course, if coffee and breakfast are part of your routine, this is the time to enjoy and settle into your rhythm, because those small familiar habits can really help calm your nerves a little bit. Now, there's one thing that is absolutely critical, and it's simple, but I'd say pretty easy to overlook, and that is your timing chip. So before you leave for transition or to a swim start, take a second, look down, and physically confirm that it is on your ankle, because without it, none of your race data is going to count. So with your morning routine hopefully complete by now, and everything is in place, you can head into your transition with confidence, which is where I think, to me, the real organization begins. Setting up your transition properly is one of the biggest opportunities you're going to have to create a really smooth and efficient race, because a clean and intentional setup is going to eliminate hesitation and wasted movement also. But before I even start laying stuff out, I always take a moment to situate myself within the transition area, because depending on the race that you're going to be doing, especially some of the larger events, you could be dealing with thousands of bikes, rows, and athletes, and it can get very overwhelming quite quickly. So if you don't have a clear reference point, that might be something that's going to hurt you. So what I like to do is either count how many racks I am from a key entry or exit point, or take note of any row labels that race organizers might have provided, because many races will mark sections to sort of help you navigate. Beyond that, I think what I try to do is always pick a very obvious landmark, right? Something that could be standing out and is easy to recognize when you're running in and out of transition, whether that's, a flag, a tree, a light post, or even a unique structure of some kind nearby. The goal there is really to make sure that when you're coming out of the water off the bike, you're not going to be second guessing where you need to go, because the last thing you want to do is be running up and down rows trying to find your spot while the clock is ticking. So taking 30 seconds to lock this in ahead can save you potentially minutes during the race. So that'll be really important. Once I feel confident that I know exactly where I'm going, that's when I begin setting up everything. I always start with my bike, right? Attaching my bike computer, turning it on to make sure it's ready, pumping up my tires back up to the correct tire pressure, and loading on my hydration and my nutrition so that everything is exactly where it needs to be before the race actually starts. From there, I move into layering out my gear, right? I keep everything as clean and visible as possible, either on a towel or sometimes, depending on the event, within the transition bag system that they may provide you. So for my bike setup, I really like to position my helmet open and ready to go with my glasses placed inside so that I can grab them in one quick motion. And I have my bike shoes and my socks organized in a way that makes sense for how I plan to execute T1. Then for my run setup, I place my running shoes, my hat, my race belt, nutrition in a clear and logical order so that when I actually arrive into T2, there's no thinking involved. It's execution. So one small tip that I actually have has made a big difference for me is bringing a small, like throwaway water bottle, which I use to quickly rinse off my feet if they're sandy or dirty, kind of coming out the swim, because that can make your transition way more comfortable and prevent issues later in the race, especially if you have a big day. And once everything is laid out, I always take a step back and do kind of one final scan because that extra few seconds can catch something you may have missed. You might want to run through your entire checklist as well. At that point, your setup should be complete, and all that remains to do is prepare yourself physically and mentally for the race that lies ahead. As you move closer to the swim start, this is where your focus shifts from setup to preparation, making sure your body, your mind are ready to go. One of the first things I always prioritize is a final bathroom break. And a small but valuable tip here: bring your own toilet paper from home or the hotel, wherever, because race morning supplies, they can be unpredictable. And this is an area where you're going to want some certainty. So from there, I usually make sure that my heart rate monitor is on. If I've not already applied my chamois cream, if I need to prevent some chafing, I put on sunscreen depending on the conditions that day. And as I get closer to the water, of course, I put on my wetsuit, I grab my swim cap and my goggles, and I apply Body Glide or Vaseline kind of around my neckline to reduce friction on my wetsuit during the swim so that there's no chafing. Then I take a few minutes for a light warm up, get my body moving, take in a gel. That's part of my plan. Sip on some fluids and gradually make my way towards the actual swim start. And as I stand there waiting for the race to begin, I already know exactly what I'm going to be doing when I come out of the water because I visualized it the night before. So now you've done your swim. Coming out of the water, the key is to stay controlled and deliberate rather than rushing, because this is where mistakes tend to happen the most, when your heart rate is elevated and you're really trying to move too quickly. As I approach my spot in the transition, I often begin by obviously removing my wetsuit and quickly cleaning my feet if needed with that bottle that I mentioned before. And then the very first thing that I do, even before touching my bike, is I put my helmet on, I clip it because this is a rule in almost every race and it has to be done first. From there, I put on my glasses, my socks, my bike shoes, and then I grab my bike and begin moving towards the exit. Now, depending on the race and my nutrition plan, sometimes I'll take a gel either while running to my bike. I would have stored it in the back of my tri-suit while swimming, or as I'm heading out of transition so that I'm already fueling early into the bike. And just like that, T1 is complete and you can focus towards the bike, which will eventually lead you right back into transition for T2. So as you come back into transition after the bike, this is another opportunity, in my opinion, to stay as composed as you possibly can and execute efficiently, because even small delays here can definitely add up. So once I reach my spot, I rack my bike securely, I remove my helmet, and then transition into my run setup. Might change my socks if needed for a longer distance race, put on my running shoes, and then I grab my hat, my race belt, and my nutrition. One tip that I found incredibly useful is actually placing nutrition into like a Ziploc sandwich bag, and the sunglasses that I have, all of that in my hat, so that I could just grab everything and just keep moving rather than standing still trying to organize a bunch of stuff, right? So the goal here is really to minimize the time spent in transition while still staying organized, because you can always adjust things as you begin running, but you can't get back time that you lose just standing still in the transition area. So with that, I guess your transition is complete, and all that remains is to execute the last leg of your race. At the end of the day, everything we've talked about here comes down to a few, simple principles. Stay calm, stick to your system, and focus on execution rather than rushing, because I think athletes who will have the smoothest transitions are not always the ones who are moving the fastest, but they're the ones that are going to be moving the most efficiently. So when you remove the uncertainty and you replace it with this repeatable process, you're going to give yourself the best possible chance to have a strong and enjoyable race from start to finish. And if you take the time to build and practice a system just like this is where you're going to notice, I think, a real difference, not just in your transition, but in your overall race experience. If you want to follow this exact system, I've turned it into a checklist and made it into a free downloadable PDF that you can grab from my website, gregstrijourney.com. I put the link in the description below, along with many other free resources that I've also put together. So if you have any suggestions of anything that I might have missed or any questions at all, go ahead, drop them in the comments or send me a DM on Instagram at gregstrijourney. I genuinely mean this. I enjoy connecting and hearing from you guys. And if this video helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and of course, follow along all around. It really helps support the channel and allows me to keep creating content like this. So thanks so much for watching, and remember to always keep having fun while you swim, bike, and run. And I will see you in the next video.